Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us this morning to talk about the Texas Department of Criminal Justice's response to line of duty deaths during a pandemic. I'm Mary McCafferty. I'm the Deputy Division Director for the Victim Services Division at TDCJ, and I'm joined by Angie McCowan, the Director of Victim Services, Bobby Lemkin, the Director of the Correctional Institutions Division, and Eric Guerrero, a Deputy Division Director for Correctional Institutions Division. We will have evaluations at the end. I have some hard copies if you need them, but you can also do them in the app. And I think we're going to take questions towards the end of the presentation and the panel. So I'll turn it over to Angie.
Morning, how are y'all? Good, welcome. So I hate teaching at a podium, so let me just tell you that I'm probably gonna have to move myself back in front of the podium over and over again. I like to walk around. So that's not my style of teaching, but I'll try to do the best that I can. What we're gonna talk about, as Mary said, is in general, everybody's experience in this room of dealing with line of duty deaths. And then we're going to talk specifically about sort of the evolution at the Texas Department of Criminal Justice, and we refer to that as TDCJ, and how we began to enhance our response to families, coworkers, etc. So I guess let's start by saying that we're not making any money off this presentation, needless to say. But after I do the objectives, I'm going to be asking you guys some questions because I don't think this will be a very interesting presentation if all you do is listen to me talk and the panel talk. So I want you to be prepared to respond to some of the questions that we're going to ask. The objectives are to recognize the impact of agency response to a line of duty death on surviving families and coworkers. And we're going to talk about that specific to the pandemic, but we'll talk about it in general as well. Discuss the unique aspects of responding to multiple pandemic-related line-of-duty deaths, of which we had many, and we'll talk about that. Discuss lessons learned for us in this panel, responding to these line-of-duty deaths during the pandemic, and we'll also talk about at least one non-pandemic case. And then you've all got a copy, if you choose to take it, of the Texas Department of Criminal Justice Line of Duty Death Manual that we created. So hopefully that will be something that you find helpful. So I guess I'd like to start by asking everybody in the room, can you raise your hand if your agency has a policy or a plan for responding to a line of duty death? Okay, well, I know TDCJ does. I know Harris County does. Can you raise your hand a little bit higher so I can see who's got a policy? So we've got some people in the room that do not, correct? How many people in the room have actually had a line of duty death within their agency? Okay. How many people in the room had a COVID death in their agency? Okay. And did you respond to those as a line of duty death? So, yes. Can you talk about how you came to the determination that that was a line of duty death? I'm talking to you in the very back corner of the room. He's like, dang it, I sat back here on purpose. I thought she wouldn't call on me. Yes. Okay, and were those referred on to the federal Public Safety Officer Benefits Program? Do you know?
I'm not sure if they were or not.
Okay.
They're still pending. They're pretty recent for us.
Okay.
The city has not made final rulings on line of duty from a risk perspective on either one. So once they do, then determinations can be made whether or not it gets referred to the federal level.
Okay, and we'll talk a little bit about that because there's some differences in the way that states or local jurisdictions decided to determine if COVID deaths were line of duty deaths. There's some differences in that determination and what the Public Safety Officers Benefits Program offered. And you'll see a couple of handouts on the table that start with BJA, and that talks about those Public Safety Officer Benefits Programs. But we'll talk a little bit more about that. Anybody else had a COVID-related death, and was it not ruled a line of duty death? No? Okay. So, how was your response to these line of duty deaths, whether it was COVID-related or something that was pre-pandemic? How do you think your agency did? On a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being not so great and 10 being they responded in an awesome way, who's a 1 to 5? Who's a 5 to 10? Your bosses must be in the room. Who's a 5 to 10? Nobody's raising their hand. Okay. So, what do you have in place to respond to line of duty deaths? I'm going to call on you back there with the glasses. Yes, you raised your hand. So what is, how did your agency respond? What is their response for line of duty deaths? What do they do when there's a line of duty death? Okay. Okay. Right. And so when that occurred, it sounds like your agency did a great job with that, responding not only to